For all you YouTuber viewers that collect catalogs, I have a very interesting Lafayette Radio and Electronics catalog from 1961. I'd like to share this with you. There's a recent acquisition that I got on eBay, and I thought it was a very interesting catalog here. In 1961, for those that collect these kind of catalogs, Lafayette Radio offered an incredible variety of things for sale. I don't know exactly when their store was opened in Newark, New Jersey, but in 1961 I was there looking for a microscope. Lafayette Radio and Electronics sold everything from electronics kits, turntables, speakers, tone arms, amplifiers, speakers, amazing things, and especially microscopes. They had an incredible variety of microscopes with microscope accessories and all the things that went along with it. Here we have some amplifiers, tuners, stereo. Stereo wasn't so old in 1961, so stereo was the big thing. Here we have Lafayette's 15-watt amplifier, monaural, rather than stereo. Notice, monaural. And then we have the tuners. Amazing variety of things that they had. Let me see. Kits. Kits were a very big thing back then. You could buy a kit. Here's a kit, a power amplifier, where you could build it, put it together yourself, and come up with something halfway decent. And that's a pretty expensive amplifier for 1961. It was probably very powerful, even though it says it's 50 watts. 50 watts back then seemed to be a lot more than 50 watts later on. I don't know exactly how they define 50 watts, but you can see here we have a dual 35 watt. I don't know if that's 35 per channel or whatever. And then they also sold Lafayette brand, but other name brands as well. Harman Kardon, Fisher. They sold speakers, speaker cabinets. Here we go. Look at all this Scott. I remember Scott amplifiers. Scott was a very big name in the 60s. I remember somebody having a Scott amplifier. I was like, it looked like one of these. I was totally impressed. It sounded tremendous. And a Marantz and a Macintosh, huge power amplifiers. Bogan, all these names, Harman Kardon. There's Altec. Remember Altec? Remember Altec Lansing speakers, the impressive Altec Lansing speakers. And then they sold tone arms. Here we have their speakers, Lafayette, and all kinds of speakers. Amazing. I mean, I could spend half an hour going through this catalog for everybody. But here is build your own speaker cabinet, you see. They sold the entire kit for $29. Can you imagine that? And then you had yourself a halfway decent amplifier kit that you could, a speaker kit, and then you put the speakers in the cabinet and have yourself a tremendous stereo system. Now here is a good name, Acoustic Research, AR. I remember my dad had AR 2As, I believe, these right here. These were supposed to be amazing sounding speakers, which I thought they were. They're supposed to be very inefficient, which required a very powerful amplifier to drive them. But yeah, here we go. Look at this. Tweeters, extended range, record changers, turntables, I suppose. Look at this, turntables, tone arms. It's then they had all kinds of components, jacks, styluses, styli, diamond, as opposed to sapphire. Sapphire was cheaper than diamond. Diamond lasted longer. And then we have all of these components, right? Then we get into other things, knobs, capacitors, fuses, timers, plugs, sockets. Let's CB, Citizens Band, transceivers, and then instruments for measuring. Yeah, here's a term, Lafayette 5-watt push-pull amplifier. I think I remember somebody explaining to me what that meant. But let's go to the page that I was most interested in with this. We'll do it like that. We don't want to damage the. But right here we have a microscope, microtome. Then we have the part that I was interested in. I went to Lafayette Radio in 1961 to buy myself a microscope. I had a paper route in Jersey City and saved up enough money to buy myself a microscope, but I wanted a halfway decent one. And here it is right here on this page. Let me see, on this page right here, the 1200 power Researcher. This was so excited when I bought this microscope for $44.50. I think my dad helped me out because that was more money than I had from my paper route. I had a choice between a 900 power and a 1200 power, where there was a $10 difference. I think my dad gave me the $10 for this one. The real difference was it had a 20 power eyepiece as opposed to a 15 power eyepiece. This had 5, 10, 15 power eyepiece with a 5, 10, 40, and 60 objective. 60 times 15 is 900 magnification. 60 times 20 was 1200. Of course, as a young boy, I had to have the 1200 power. And then along with, and it came in a nice case, and the optical performance, even by today's standards, was pretty darn good, I have to say myself, because I have much better microscopes today. I see they sold slide kits, microtomes for cutting your own thin slices, stains. They sold prepared slides, like I said, slide kits. And then, of course, they had a much more expensive microscope, 1500 power. I couldn't afford $89. It was way over my budget. But I do remember as a young boy drooling over owning something like this. Here's a microscope that went up to 2000 power. And I said, oh my God, 2000 power. Of course, I know better today that 2000 power really doesn't mean much. In microscopes, 1000 magnification is probably the maximum that you can get with an optical microscope. Any more than that, it's just enlarging the image without any increase in optical performance. But $345 back in 1961 was a lot of money. Here's one for $179. Then we go to the transistor radios. Look at that, huh? Transistor radios, AM, FM, whatever. Yeah, and then here we go. So that's it. So this is my 1961 Lafayette